Thank you for joining us on another episode of Popcorn for Breakfast. How's everybody doing? With me, as always, Kirk.
Hello.
He's the co-host of this show. I am your other co-host. We're here. We're rocking and rolling. It's Tuesday night. We got big movies, big news. We've got Marvel movies. I mean, this is great. This feels great.
It does feel great. And we are on the cusp of the Loki finale dropping, which I'm going to attempt to stay up all night long and watch.
Wow. Yeah, just a few hours away. We've got Loki coming at us. The Loki finale. So date of recording, like I said, Tuesday, July 13th. So yeah, Loki is upon us. We just dropped today our episode 5 recap. So you guys can go check that out before Loki airs. It is shaping up to be quite the finale. We're not going to go into details because some of you guys may not be watching, but let me just tell you, Kirk and I were talking about it on the pod, our recap pod, Spilled Popcorn. This is the best Marvel series, right? This is it. We've only got 3 so far, so small sample size, but I mean, this is the best one so far.
Yeah, uncontested. It's close. It is close, but it's quite easily the strongest, and I think tonight will solidify that, which is exciting. It's exciting because Loki's been a big fan favorite forever, and let's just see him bring it home tonight.
Yeah, man, I'm giddy about it. I'm really excited. Really excited. So, and then the other thing I'm excited about is Emmy nominations. We've got the Emmys coming up. September 19th is when the Emmys are dropping, and we got our nominations today, so a few months in advance, as per usual. They all dropped this morning, and there are some interesting things in there. There are plenty of interesting things. I think the Emmys are always interesting. It feels like there are, I've always been curious to see where they would stand on things like WandaVision, where they stand on things like The Mandalorian. Obviously, this is season 2 for The Mandalorian, and it fared well in season 1. But just seeing, how the streaming wars continue to develop. These award shows really are good indicators. And then, where's network TV fall into the mix? That all that stuff sort of culminating into the Emmys. And nowadays, and we'll talk about it obviously, but crazy to think that, 5 years ago, it would have been all network TV shows. And now it's just streaming
right,
with the little drizzle of network television. It is a very different world now that, all these streaming services are creating their own content. So we'll dig into all of that. We are, if you stick around to the end, or if you're listening on the podcast and you swing back on Friday, we're reviewing Black Widow, a movie that we've been waiting for over a year to come out. We have been waiting. Oh, I'll do you one better, Kirk.
What?
Boom.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
And this is the one from the movie. And I've also got Alexi with his little red guardian.
You know what? I just wanted to show this one, and guess what? Her arms pop off.
Oh,
and
that's cooler.
You can be. It suddenly becomes a what if trailer because now she is Black Widow / Iron Man.
What if Black Widow had Iron Man arms?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I love it. It's just here I was thinking that just one time I would one up you on the props and still no. But that's okay. That's your role, and I appreciate it.
And now I don't know how to put her arm back on, so she's going to be armless for a while.
Forever. All right. So yeah, we're going to talk Black Widow. Big deal. The MCU is back on the big screen for the first time in 2 years. Whether you're superhero movied out or not, this is a big deal for the movies. It's a big deal for lovers of Marvel films, and we're going to talk about Black Widow, how it stacks up, and then we're going to wrap up the show with our Schoolyard pick of MCU solo films, and we'll see if Black Widow cracks either of our lists. But and we'll explain more what that means, MCU solo films, when we get to that point, because it's a little bit convoluted, and I've got a few stipulations we need to talk through, Kirk, before we get into all of that. So we need to iron out the deets before we go into it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, we got lots going on, and we have lots of news to cover. So, Kirk, I think we probably better get going. What do you think?
I'm ready to pop it up, as you say, Cam.
Let's pop it. All right. We mentioned it right at the outset. The Emmys, the 73rd Emmy Awards are coming at us September 19th, and the nominations got dropped today. So, Kirk, here's what I want to do. I want to talk through these big categories, get some overall reactions, talk through some of the bigger storylines, and then, we'll just kind of wrap on that for a little while and see what we come up with. What do you say?
I'm ready. Are we voting sometimes during this as well?
I mean, sure. Yeah, you can. I mean, just tell me what your picks are. Tell me what you like, what you're questioning, what's going on. I just need to know what's going on in your head when you react to this.
Okay.
All
I'm an open book. Yes.
So the big award for the Primetime Emmys is always Outstanding Drama Series. There is also an Outstanding Comedy Series, but really like the big winner, the best picture, if you will, is Outstanding Drama Series. We have 8 nominees for that award, and they are Amazon Prime's The Boys, Netflix's Bridgerton, Netflix's The Crown, Disney Plus's The Mandalorian, Lovecraft Country from HBO, Pose, which I believe is FX.
I believe so.
The Handmaid's Tale from Hulu, and then This Is Us from NBC.
Wow.
Those are our nominees. So that storyline that I was talking about earlier, there's a great example. Streaming versus network. We have HBO, which is premium network and is also streaming now. And you have NBC and the rest, and FX, and the rest are all Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu. So different world. What's your take on that category, Kirk?
Well, first of all, to the manifestors of the world, I just want to point out your show is not on there because it is just Lost 2.0. It is not a real show. It is a recreation of a show.
Wow.
Let's just get that out of the way. I see manifestors. I don't know if that's what they're called.
They have a name. I'll look it up. They have a name.
Manifestos, manifestas. I don't know, but it is just Lost. It is Lost Part 2, a continuation. Anyways, this list is baller. It's incredible. I have actually seen very little of most of these shows. I've probably seen one season of almost everything on here. But I got to go with The Crown, which I've seen the least of. I'm going to say The Crown is going to take this as it swept the Golden Globes last year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be The Crown. I was obviously glad to see The Mandalorian. Was glad to see Lovecraft Country, The Handmaid's Tale. I haven't seen Pose. I need to watch Pose. The Boys. This is a solid category. I know This Is Us. I was a little bit surprised to see just because I know that show's sort of not in its best form right now, but I guess with 8 nominees in the state of television right now, that's where you get left with.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that they divide things out into comedy, and the comedy section is always questionable because
confusing.
Yeah. So let's dive into the comedy arena here. We've got nominees for Outstanding Comedy Series. We've got Blackish, Cobra Kai, Pen 15, Emily in Paris, Hacks, Ted Lasso, The Flight Attendant, and The Kaminsky Method. Now, The Flight Attendant is not a comedy by any means. It's more of like you will laugh, I suppose, at times, but it's not what I would call a comedy. The rest of those are probably comedies. I can't speak to Cobra Kai because I haven't watched much of it, but that's a weird category.
That is a very weird category. I know Ted, again, comparing it to the Golden Globes, is the most recent thing we had. My vote is, I'm going to go with Blackish. I hope. I've not seen it. And let me put that out there. I want to vote for this show because I haven't seen it, but I have heard Anthony Anderson on several podcasts and I'm like, dude, what he's talking about, that's the content of that show, is exciting. It's hilarious and it's innovative. So I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them this year. Let's give it up for the Blackish crew.
Yeah, and Kenya Barris has been in the news a little bit. He's the showrunner for walking out of a $100 million deal with Netflix, basically for creative differences. For lack of a better term there. He basically said, I want to do my own thing. I don't feel like we're doing the stuff that we should be doing here. And so, yeah, if you can walk away from that much money, I respect you. That means that you're sticking to your guns.
Right. And he already has $100 million in the bank, most likely.
Yeah.
Or close to it.
Yeah. All right. Let's move right along here To outstanding lead actor in a drama series, we got Regé Jean Page from Bridgerton, Sterling K. Brown, This Is Us, Billy Porter from Pose, Jonathan Majors from Lovecraft Country, Matthew Rhys from Perry Mason, and Josh O'Connor from The Crown. I mean, literally not a single surprise in that category. Of note, first nomination for Jonathan Majors for the Emmys, first nomination for Regé Jean Page for the Emmys, so congrats to those guys. Outstanding lead actress in a drama series goes to, the nominees are Emma Corrin from The Crown, Olivia Colman from The Crown, Uzo Aduba from In Treatment, Elizabeth Moss from The Handmaid's Tale, Journey Smollett from Lovecraft Country, and MJ Rodriguez from Pose. And MJ Rodriguez is the first transgender actor to be nominated for an Emmy as well. So that's a big deal. And Lovecraft Country, man, I think it's funny. This show just got canceled, and obviously ratings are different than quality, right? Yep. Your show could be great, but if people don't watch it, it's not going to get renewed for a second season. But I'm just wondering, what's going on there? Maybe people would watch a second season if they know that it's Emmy nominated. That show kind of came out like at a weird time. I don't feel like it was particularly well advertised. Like people didn't really know what it was about. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that HBO pulled the trigger so fast on canceling that.
Yeah, I'm going to guess what it's about because I've still not seen it. I've attempted to start it. I've stared at Jonathan Majors' face for so long as I'm about to hit play. And what it looks like a man and his sister, is what it looks like, are fighting off a giant octopus monster in a small southern town called Marietta. So this is what was about. Am I anywhere close to correct, Cam?
You are 30% correct.
Okay, maybe. Great.
In the fact that it's like a southern town, it's hot. But really, it's just like, first of all, Journey Smollett is not Jonathan Majors' sister. It's more of like a love interest type thing.
Oh, okay.
It's gotcha. It's a horror show, and each episode sort of is connected to the whole, but also is like its own little episodic deal with H.P. Lovecraft stories and tales and monsters and things like that sort of woven into it. So it's really cool. The reason I stopped watching it, and then I picked it back up, but the reason I stopped watching it originally was that one of the episodes scared the crap out of me, and I was watching it late at night, and I was like, I'm only going to be able to watch this late at night, so I'm not going to be able to watch it until I have time to like watch it during the day. So I ended up finishing it, but it has a lot of like themes about, civil rights and things like that because it's set back in the day. So it's a really cool series. It really is. It's just, again, I don't think they marketed it well, and it's going to be pretty awkward if it wins a bunch of Emmys and then it's like, ooh, a bunch of people are interested, and now Misha Green is gone and the whole cast is gone and the whole show is gone because HBO pulled the plug. I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah, that is pretty shocking. You're spot on. It came out at such a weird time. It was like in COVID, but when it was like on the upswing, and just what a bummer. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
But we get Jonathan Majors in the MCU, so
yeah, we'll sorry. He'll get plenty of work. He's pretty talented. Journey Smollett, same deal.
Yes.
Talented actors. They'll be all right. They'll land on their feet. And we've actually got a news story about Misha Green, the showrunner, later on. So we'll let you know what she's going to be up to going forward. All right, let's move over to comedy series. The best lead actor in a comedy series. The nominees are Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso, Anthony Anderson for Blackish, Michael Douglas for The Kominsky Method, William H. Macy for Shameless, and Kenan Thompson for Kenan.
There it is.
Shocking.
What do you think, sir? Do you have any thoughts? Any feelings?
Kenan is truly awful, and it pains me to say this because I love Kenan Thompson. I think he's great. I think he's followed the path that so many people do, which is to pay your dues on SNL, do an incredible job, get some Lorne Michaels EP'd show that sucks, a flagship show that sucks on NBC, and then that's sort of the end of it. And I feel bad about it, but the show is just not funny. It's just not good, in my opinion. So congrats on the nomination, Kenan. Obviously deserved, but the show is rough. And also, if we're throwing out takes, the Kominsky Method just is not my jam. I've tried it many times. I think I have something against Michael Douglas.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. I have no real reason for it, but I just don't like him. And I'm sorry, Michael Douglas. I don't know why. There's something wrong with me, but I just don't.
Yes, I'd like to unpack that after this episode.
We
maybe
might need to.
off
There
the
might be
air.
something psychological like that I need to unearth, because I can't think of any logical reason for me to not like him, but there's got to be something there.
Something in your past we need to unravel.
I'm scared now. I'm very scared. Okay, let's move on to Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series. Adie Bryant for Shrill, Jean Smart for Hacks, Allison Janney for Mom, Kaylee Cuoco for The Flight Attendant, and Tracy Ellis Ross for Blackish. Any surprises there? I mean, Kaylee Cuoco, I really liked The Flight Attendant. I didn't think it was perfect, but I thought it was really fun. And Adie Bryant getting nominated, that's exciting for her as well.
I've seen none of these shows. Apparently, I live in a dramatic pit of life because I've seen all the dramas.
Yeah, you're more of the drama guy. So let's move over to Outstanding Limited Series, because I feel like this is where most people spend their times. Limited series are sort of like the in thing these days. They're like the in medium, which I'm all for because it's one of my favorite mediums ever. But we've got Mayor of Easttown, I May Destroy You, WandaVision, The Queen's Gambit, and The Underground Railroad nominated for Outstanding Limited Series. So that's exciting. Mayor of Easttown I thought was great. WandaVision, obviously good. Was surprised to see them get as much love as they did. The Queen's Gambit was obviously phenomenal, and I May Destroy You. Like, those are all heavy hitters. That's going to be a tough category, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes. And then...
would you say that it's... here's a late joke.
Yeah.
Would you say that it's a chess match, this category?
For sure, man. Definitely.
Because The Queen's Gambit is about a girl who's really good at chess.
Yes, you're so right.
Please move on to the next category as fast as you can.
I'm just going to do the last two, which is Outstanding Lead Actor in a Limited Series or Movie, and Outstanding Lead Actress in a Limited Series or Movie. So for the acting categories, Paul Bettany for WandaVision, Hugh Grant for The Undoing, Ewan McGregor for Halston, that's his Netflix show, Lin-Manuel Miranda for Hamilton, and Leslie Odom Jr. for Hamilton. So that is certainly an interesting category. Definitely not comparing like apples to apples there. So good luck to the voters. Outstanding Lead Actress in a Limited Series or Movie is either Kate Winslet for Mayor of Easttown, Michaela Cole for I May Destroy You, Anya Taylor-Joy for The Queen's Gambit, Elizabeth Olsen for WandaVision, or Cynthia Erivo for Genius Aretha.
Okay.
So stacked. Those categories are both stacked, and those are going to be tough fought.
My hand is raised.
Yes,
I have a question. Why is Hamilton nominated?
Because it is a television movie, technically.
But it's 2021, and did that come out in 20? It did come out in 2020.
It came out July 4th or July 3rd or whatever.
I'm so confused. I'm so confused. It felt like we had that 3 years ago. And
it was like also Oscars eligible.
Yes.
So it's like,
yes,
very confusing.
Time is relative.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Like, people do not know what to do with the streaming movies. They're like, so is it a TV movie? Is it a regular movie? Like, where do we go with this?
How do we qualify this? Just throw it in there.
Yep. That's the way to do it.
Well, one more pin for Mr. Lin-Manuel.
Right, exactly.
One more feather.
Might as well. Here you go, bud. Here's another award, another nomination, whatever. You'll get plenty of them, I'm sure. So that's the Emmys. I know it's not exciting to listen through all the nominations, but at least when you're talking to people at work, you will know what to say now, and it'll be interesting. Other big storylines going on, other than the ones that we mentioned. HBO led in nominations. They were number one, followed by Netflix, followed by Disney Plus, actually. Disney Plus, who is very new to the television game in general, had 71 nominations overall between WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Mandalorian. All of those things were nominated. So I believe Disney Plus scooped up 71. I believe I'm getting that number right. Let me verify.
That is massive. That is absolutely massive.
Yes.
Just to thinking, many, many moons ago when it was I've said this before, a big hoopla when when The Sopranos joined the eligibility, and they're like, well, should we let them in?
Right.
And thank goodness they paved the way.
I know, man. No kidding. It would be so boring now. And I was right about 71 nominations. 23 alone for WandaVision, 24 for The Mandalorian, 5 for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then you got Hamilton and a few other things. So yeah, it's an interesting time. I've said it 1,000 times, but in case you were curious, network TV is very dead. Very, 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 very dead. So say goodbye to anybody who likes network TV. It is on the way down.
Bye-bye.
All right, that's the Emmys. Let's move on, shall we? Let's move on. We got a few other things to chat about. The first one, I couldn't resist. This is so fun. Matt Damon apparently was offered the lead role in Avatar way back in the day. Jim Cameron came to Matt Damon and said, you can be the lead in Avatar. And if you agree to do it, you get 10% profit sharing. So he would get 10% of the profits, meaning that he left over $100 million on the table by turning down this role. Your thoughts, Kirk?
It makes perfect sense that it was Matt Damon, because Sam Worthington would have been his stunt double in a different life, because looks just like him. What a dummy.
Yeah, it almost feels like Jim Cameron wrote this movie thinking about Matt Damon. Now that you say that, and then it's like, well, he said no, so who's next? It's like,
how about this guy that looks just like him? And I bet you, this is harsh, because Sam Worthington has redeemed himself in another movie. He was in Hacksaw Ridge, which I thought he was very excellent in, and hopefully that is where he found how to act. And when he comes back to Avatar 2 and the future ones, we will see him in a much different light.
Man on a ledge?
Absolutely not.
That was a test and you passed.
Absolutely not. That was before Hacksaw Ridge. Let's get the timeline right,
true.
Okay?
That's true.
I just, if I'm Matt Damon already has a lot of money, but man, he would just be getting just buckets of checks still just pouring in for just no reason.
Well, I'm just
it's
thinking,
incredible.
Avatar is the highest grossing film of all time. And granted, we're talking profit, not revenue. So who knows how that all shakes out. But if your movie makes $2.8 billion in the box office, let's say, 10% of the profits off that is pretty good. I'd say. So.
Well, excuse me, tired. I also have to say that Matt Damon probably read the script and said this is garbage, which to a point, it doesn't have the strongest script. However, Matt Damon being a screenwriter himself, if he was part of the project, I think he could have done a really cool collab with James Cameron and really, really bulked up that story together. We'll never know. We will never know.
The world will never know. But we do know that Matt Damon left a ton of cheddar cheese on the table. So that is fun. Not for him. He probably cries himself to sleep every night thinking about that. But
he went to Pandora when it opened up, and he's holding one of the dolls that he made, but it's of him, and no one else.
Yeah, poor guy. Poor Matt Damon. Pour one out for Matt Damon. Okay, we were talking about Lovecraft Country earlier. This probably would have been the better segue coming out of the Emmys, but hey, who needs it? Who needs a good segue? But Misha Green, who's the showrunner of Lovecraft Country, was a bit bitter, I would say, when HBO pulled the rug out from underneath her and her show and her cast. She went to the extent of telling people what the plot would have been of season 2, sharing scripts online on her website. It was not the cleanest breakup, but she, understandably so. People were expecting it to get renewed, and HBO sort of last minute canceled it. And her cast was left in a position where they had already cleared their schedules for this, and it's a whole thing. Sometimes that happens in business, but she's landed on her feet with a nice, plush new deal to create and develop TV shows for Apple TV Plus. So Apple being opportunistic, as we've seen them be in the past, taking the disgruntled showrunner, someone with good thoughts and genius ideas, and just hitting them with a check as soon as they get released from their current contract and saying, please come make our platform better. Please, please, please.
They do, which is a good strategy. Whoever thought of that, bravo.
It's the overall Apple strategy. It's just like take something that already works and make it Apple and make it better. Hopefully.
That's exactly right. I hope that, I've seen more and more traction as Apple TV Plus chugs along here, and I forgot to cancel my free subscription. So I'm now paying for it, which is a surprise to my wallet, my $5, but it's, I'm excited to see what this brings, what these deals brings. Lots of contracts are being signed with lots of big artists right now.
Yeah, I would say my announcement is that I have decided to pay for 1 month of Apple TV Plus. My 1.5 years of free Apple TV Plus is finally over, sadly, and I have made a conscious decision to pay for 1 month of Apple TV Plus so that when Ted Lasso drops on July 23rd, I can watch all of it and then promptly cancel my subscription. So to that, I say, touche, Apple. You have won this standoff between the two of us in some way. You eventually got some money out of me, and for that, I applaud you. Like, well done, touche. And I'm sure we'll meet again.
Yes, and there's some Apple miser sitting in his closet right now with his laptop open, like, I got him. He's so excited. I got him.
Well, they probably got like millions of dollars of people just waiting for Ted Lasso to come out. They're all going to cancel. I don't know. Or they're just hoping people forgot about it, which, I mean, a lot of people I think did. Yeah.
Guilty. Yeah.
For sure. All right, moving right along. Lots of Disney / Disney Plus news going on. Disney Plus dropped a trailer today for a new series called Behind the Attraction that is sort of in the same vein as that Imagineering show they had, which I thought was really cool. And that's coming out next Wednesday. It's called Behind the Attraction, where they show you basically deep dives behind the scenes of some of their most iconic rides, like the Haunted Mansion, the Jungle Cruise. I think they even have some upcoming rides coming up on that show. So I think it's going to be a week-to-week release starting next Wednesday.
Brilliant.
Yeah, should be exciting. I like stuff like that. I don't know why. It's like the dad in me. I'm just like,
how stuff works.
And then when you get to Disney World, you can tell your kids, you're like, hey, did you know it took 1,500 miles worth of chain link to make this track? I don't know. Stupid crap like that.
It's so true. I used to work at the Gateway Arch, and I took my son there, and I'm like, son, it's 630 feet to the top and 630 feet between each leg. I am the exact same way. Oh.
I don't know what it is. Like Gilmore Girls made a joke about that one time about like how guys go to places and they're like, how many bricks do you think it took to build this? It's because it's because we're unimaginative, I think. Sorry, gentlemen, but just in general, we don't have good talking points to talk about. So we choose the minutia and we dive into that. So there you go. But that'll be good for all of us out there who need some more Disney talking points the next time we go. Check out Behind the Attraction starting next week on Disney Plus. All right, next we're going to do some trailer reactions because everybody loves a trailer reaction, right, Kirk? I mean, I know I do.
I do.
All right, I'm going to give you a choice here.
Okay.
Do you want to start with Disney and Pixar's Turning Red or Marvel Studios' What If?
Ooh, let's start with What If.
What If? Okay, your wish is my command. Let me get that queued up here. 1 second.
Okay. Do we have any verification if Spider-Man is in this? I couldn't remember if I saw him in the trailer or not.
Yes, Spider-Man is in this. Spider-Man is in this. There is, as you'll see in the trailer for those of you watching on the stream, Spider-Man is wearing the cape, the Doctor Strange cape. I always forget the technical name of that, but Spider-Man is there. This one that they're showing right now, the plotline is, what if Eric Killmonger saved Tony Stark when he was in the desert getting blown up? They have like, what if Peggy Carter became Captain America or Captain Carter or something like that? They have, what if T'Challa was raised by the Ravagers? What looks like, what if Spider-Man became the Sorcerer Supreme because he's like wearing the cape? So there's all these different really cool what if storylines here, and this is an animated show. For those of you who haven't seen the trailer and who are listening on the podcast, this is an animated show. So this is a very different flavor, and this will be MCU. I mean,
Yes.
like, you know, it's tied into that. I don't know how. I mean, obviously we're doing some multiverse stuff in Loki. We're doing some multiverse stuff in WandaVision. We've got some Doctor Strange multiverse stuff coming up, obviously, but this is tied in. So be ready for that. What are your thoughts after seeing this trailer, Kirk?
I just want to play with my son's toys that I have here that I'm showing on the video portion of our podcast. I absolutely love it. I have never been a cartoon guy as an adult, but I will absolutely watch this for two reasons. It looks stinking amazing, and but did I say two reasons? How about three? It looks one. Sauce. It looks stinking amazing. Two, we have what is presumably Chadwick Boseman's final performance in his vocal acting. I believe correct. That is on the docket, which is crazy. He's on the screen now. And three, it's going to tie back into the cinematic universe. I'm certain of it. So I have to watch it. Otherwise, I will be left out of everything. So I must watch it for my job on the podcast, for which I get paid $100 million a year.
Yeah, you're expensive. You are. And you're really snobby when it comes to the contract negotiations. You're one of those. You're one of those guys.
Yes.
Like, I'm the talent, you know? Yeah. So I'm excited about What If, obviously. I think it looks a lot better than I was expecting. The animation is very stylistic. The voice acting sounds pretty good. In some cases, as you referenced, they actually have the original voices coming in. So that's really cool. Not always, like, you know, Tony Stark is a different voice actor. I think Captain America is a different voice actor, or Steve Rogers, I should say, is a different voice actor. Mm-hmm. Thor is not voiced by Chris Hemsworth, etc. But a few of those voices are original, and the rest of them sound good, even without it. So pretty exciting. That's the one that's like, I don't know if we're going to do spilled popcorn on it. We've been kind of like kicking it around because we don't know, like, if the show format will lend itself to doing recaps, but we want to talk about it. We want to talk about it a lot. So we'll find out some creative way to do that. All right, let's move to our last trailer reaction. And this is actually a teaser trailer for a new Disney and Pixar film that's coming out in early 2022. And this is called Turning Red. We saw this at the Disney Investor showcase that they did last year. That was sort of in place of like Comic-Con and stuff like that, and in place of their like D23 Expo. But this is, I believe this film was created by the director of Bao, which was that Academy Award winning short film about the dumpling who gets eaten by his mom.
Did not like that. Did not.
It is a really beautiful short with a really cool story, but a very interesting way of going about it, because when she eats the dumpling, it is one of the most shocking things in the entire world. And you know that it's coming, but it's like, what just happened?
Didn't like it.
So the premise of this movie, as you're seeing it on the screen here, is that there is a little girl who, when she gets like overstimulated, like overexcited, or in this case, like over embarrassed, transforms into a giant red panda. Yes. And transforms in a giant puff of pink smoke as well. So it's like it's a big deal, and it's pretty hilarious to look at. So basically just like a coming of age story, you know, how kids are like trying to find themselves. You can obviously see like the symbolisms and things that they're going for here, Kirk, but I want to get your take on the aesthetic, what the presumed plot line, because this is a teaser trailer, so we don't know that much about it. What's your overall thoughts on Turning Red so far?
Yeah, there's definitely something going on with the relationship with the mom and the daughter. The daughter is running away. Maybe she wanted to be in school, but maybe the mom's like, no, you can't, because look at what you are. And she's trying to fit in and trying to, you know, control her emotions. We could see a lot of, I don't know if Pete Docter's behind this or at all, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of emotional depth, emotional analysis with this as well. So I'm excited to see that. And that panda, oh my goodness.
So cute. It looks so fluffy. Looks so fluffy.
Clifford has a run for its money. There are two large red animals coming out, and I don't know, this one looks a little bit better.
Only one can stand. Only one can remain. Will it be the giant red panda or Clifford the big red dog? Yeah, this one looks so interesting. I'm excited to see where it goes from here. The mom's voice is actually they announced today because they dropped this trailer that it's Sandra Oh who's playing the voice of the mother. Nice. For any of you Grey's Anatomy fans out there, this looks really fun. And the word on the street, and these are all rumors, is that Pixar and Disney are anticipating this being Pixar's return to the movie theaters, because Soul and Luca were the last two films to be released under the Pixar umbrella. Both were done so under Disney Plus with no premiere access. I don't know, gate wall, whatever, paywall, you know. Mm-hmm. And even Onward was cut short by the pandemic and was moved to Disney Plus after a couple of weeks in the box office, because that was like right when the pandemic hit. So this is expected to be the big return. So that's exciting. It's coming early 2022. So we'll get an official date and more details later on that one.
Nice.
And our last news story is about the movie that we're reviewing this week, Black Widow. So this will act as a good segue. And the story is just this. Black Widow crushed it, absolutely crushed it at the box office this weekend. $80 million domestically this weekend, which puts it on track for a huge earnings. It's definitely the largest post-pandemic movie ever so far as an opening weekend. Its preview night made it was like somewhere around $15 million, which doubled what Fast 9 did, and that was the previous record for post-pandemic. So it's doing very well. And if you look over to Disney Plus Premier Access, they made over $60 million on Disney Plus Premier Access last weekend too. So domestically, that's right around $150 million for an opening weekend, which puts it on par with some of the biggest Marvel movies ever, you know, pandemic or no pandemic. So that is huge news. And that Premier Access is something to watch. That's something to watch, because here's what you have to keep in mind about that. All of the dollars that come from that go straight into Disney's pocket. There's no middleman. There's no distribution fees. There's no nothing. It goes right on their platform, so that money goes right in their profit. So each one of the dollars there is closer to a whole dollar than the dollars they get at the box office. So this is the first time we've really gotten like estimates on how much they're making on Premier Access. So that's something to keep an eye on, guys. I don't know what will come of it, if it just means that they'll continue to do Premier Access alongside box office releases, but that is a storyline to watch, no doubt.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, Kirk? Anything else before we pop it up for the last time?
I have nothing. I am ready to talk about this movie.
All right, let's do it. Let's pop it up one last time. All right. And at long last, Marvel fans, after 2 years of waiting, a 2-year hiatus from the silver screen, the MCU is back, and it's back with its first Phase 4 film, which is Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, William Hurt, and Kirk. You are doing us the honors of synopsing, my friend.
Oh,
so whenever you're ready, just fire away.
First of all, I'd like to call out that as I pulled the synopsis up earlier today, because I thought it was my turn, I found that there was another movie called Black Widow in 1987. I'd first like to read that synopsis before we talk about the real synopsis. Sure. And just ponder for a moment if someone went into this movie thinking it was a remake of that film instead of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for whatever crazy situation. So with Florence Pugh and what's the other girl's name? Scarlett Johansson. She this is what would happen if this came out in 1987. A federal investigator tracks down a gold-digging woman who moves from husband to husband to kill him and collect the inheritance.
So that's the synopsis of the 1987 Black Widow?
Yes, it is. Yes,
I might have to check that out. That sounds pretty good.
It does look pretty dope. No one that we know. Oh no, Dennis Hopper's in it. Terry O'Quinn. Speaking of Lost, from our earlier episode this week that we dropped. Deborah Winger.
IMDb score? What do we got?
Oh man, the new screen here does not.
They have a new user interface.
I found it. 6.4 out of 10.
Oh, that's not bad.
Not bad at
Not
all.
too shabby.
1987. This is a strong, solid 80s film. I'm excited to watch it. But the real Black Widow, what you came for, happens to be taking part between Miss Black Widow herself, Natasha Romanoff, and her sister, Yelena Belova, and the made up family that they were forced to have as they were all taken from their real homes, their real families, and handpicked to be part of this elite, horrifying, trafficked group of girls who became spies for the Russian government. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and done in a brilliant way in Marvel's 2021 release of this new Marvel Cinematic Universe. We find Natasha Romanoff going back to the notorious Red Room that we've heard about over and over in the Marvel lore, and having her find redemption and avenging her identity more so than anything else, and to also save those who are still entrapped by the evil Draco. Fascinating, thrilling ride and new addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Draco Malfoy, huh?
Draco Malfoy, yes, he's resurfaced.
I think it's Dracoff.
Is it Draco?
I think so. I don't know for sure, to be honest, but I heard Draco better.
I heard Draco in the movie, yeah. So
I like Draco better. It's Dracoff, okay, but that's okay. Let's call him Draco. I like that better because it just makes me think of Tom Pelton now.
Yes.
Or Tom, oh gosh.
Hiddleston.
No. Hold on. Tom Pelton, I was right. Okay. Now I'm getting all kinds of confused. No, I wasn't right. Oh my Lord. What's his name? Oh, okay. All right.
Tommy Hilfiger.
Let's
Thomas the Tank Engine. Tommy Boy.
Draco Malfoy. Hold on, I'm Googling. Tom Felton. I had one consonant wrong. Sorry, Harry Potter stans. That was a brain burp there. Okay, Kirk. We're finally talking about Black Widow after talking about the 1987 Black Widow and Tom Felton / Tom Pelton / whoever you want to say.
Yes.
You are up first on our superlatives, so I need to know who is your Oscar going to? Who was the best actor in this film?
My Oscar goes to. Well, which one do you want it from? From the 1987 film or from the 2021
Let's go with
Marvel
this one.
film?
Let's go with the 2021. I think that would be
okay. Good. Gotcha. We need to release a mini episode on the other Black Widow and just like trick people. We need to do it like this week, and people will automatically watch that, and our numbers will like skyrocket
yeah,
or be destroyed. I have to say that this must go to the wonderful and incomparable Florence Pugh.
Woo!
This girl is out of this world. I first saw Miss Florence Pugh opposite Chris Pine, the best Chris, in Outlaw King, Netflix's Outlaw King, which takes place in Scotland shortly after William Wallace has been killed in the war for freedom. And she just plays an incredible part in that film, and then she just got cast in gajillions of things. She was in The Little Drummer Girl. She was, which was a limited TV series. She was in Midsummer, a horrifying movie that I know Cameron has watched, and I'm a little scared to watch. Little Women, we saw her just destroy in that. Now Black Widow, she's in the upcoming Hawkeye series. She is everywhere. And if you haven't seen her, you live under a rock. Her performance is nuanced. It's real. It's gritty at times. My favorite thing that she does in the movie, I love little things, because when you find a little thing that an actor does but doesn't overdo it, it really grabs you. So the way that she sarcastically laughed at her sister, or anyone for that matter, but it's still within her full characterization and her Russian accent, which she goes several times when she is when someone's making fun of her or comments on her that she doesn't care or doesn't like, or she's making fun of someone else. Those characterizations are just strewn throughout here, just like Skittles or like Reese's Pieces in E.T. You're just like, I have to have more. It's just absolutely incredible what she can do. I love her personality. I love what she does with this character that has not been on screen yet. I hope she sticks around the MCU for a long time. Over the weekend, Cam, you and I were talking about who are the heavy hitters in the MCU. We lost a couple at the end of Endgame, of course, and this is their opportunity to have a very strong female character come in out of nowhere, total left field, and just be a fan favorite immediately. So Florence Pugh.
Yeah, it's a great choice and a good point. I mean, I think this movie certainly sets up the ability for her to return, as we had sort of heard. You know, you don't really introduce a new character in a prequel film without making them count later. You know, it's something that I expect to be very important in the MCU going forward. But we'll get more into that. My best actor, and I'm gonna shock the world here because I feel like people are not on this page, but I am, and you know, just based on people I've talked to about the movie that have seen it so far. But buried beneath two great performances from Florence Pugh and David Harbour is the best Scarlett Johansson performance that we've gotten in the MCU to date. I thought she was excellent, and she's my best actor, Scarlett Johansson. I really thought she was good. I thought she was doing a ton of really nuanced stuff. I thought in scenes with dialogue with pretty much anybody, she was just very natural, very genuine, giving a really honest performance. I think in previous MCU films, she has sort of just really been, I don't know if it was the writing or if it were her acting choices, but just kind of put in this one-dimensional box of like, I don't show any emotion, I don't have any depth, you know, kind of character. And that was not the case here. And it wasn't the case like from right away, where like we get to see her watching a James Bond movie by herself and quoting the movie. We get to see her interact with, you know, her family, air quotes. And we find out that this is not a one-dimensional character, but a very layered character, and one that has lots of personality and lots of thoughts and lots of history and damage that has made her the way that she is. And I thought that ScarJo was great. I really did. I still think she's underappreciated in the world of acting. I think she's one of the best that we have, and I think that this was a great performance for her. So it's got to go to Scarlett Johansson for me.
Wonderful.
All right.
I'm going to just put my foot down here. I disagree. I thought that she has been better in previous MCU films.
Oh, really?
I do. I don't know why. It may come out more so in my director's shoes, because I don't think it was her fault. I really don't. Still a good performance, but I feel like I've seen stronger performances out of Miss ScarJo Johansson, who's expecting with Mr. Colin Jost.
Yeah, good for them. That's exciting.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Let's move on to Scene Stealer, Kirk. Who you got?
Mr. Scene Stealer. I've given it away. It's a man. It goes to Mr. David Harbour. You know him from Stranger Things, of most of anything. But did you know that David Harbour has been around for quite some time, specifically in the 2001 episode of As the World Turns, Officer Shanks? That's probably what most people know him from, but you also may know him from Kinsey, starring opposite Mr. Liam Neeson. He was in an episode of Hack, War of the Worlds. He was in Brokeback Mountain. He's been in Revolutionary Road. He was in Lie to Me. He was been in multiple iterations of Law and Order, End of Watch, one of mine and Cam's favorite movies that we love to riff on, The Newsroom. He's been in so many things, but ultimately you know him as Jim Hopper from Stranger Things. I was so excited to see him reinvent himself again. If you haven't seen him in any of those other iterations, make sure you watch it, because this man is here to play. He's here to fight. He's here to be on your screens in your home. He really doesn't phone anything in. He really attacks the script with great passion, and none of that was left on the table for this movie as well. Whatever came his way, he just went for it with wonderful stride, and with a professionalism like a fine wine, you might imagine, because it was so effortless, nothing forced, and all very exciting. All of his jokes landed. All of his ridiculous antics seemed natural to the character. And of course, there were some grounded moments as well. Not a lot for Alexi. Maybe we'll see that in the future as the Red Guardian. But ultimately, he's got to be my scene stealer. Bravo, Mr. David Harbour.
Yeah, great call. Gotta love David Harbour. This was a fun role. I think Red Guardian is an interesting character. He was the perfect casting choice. One of those castings that as soon as they announced it, you're like, yep, that's going to be awesome. And it was. It paid off in a big way. For my scene stealer, I'm going with Florence Pugh. Kirk already gushed about Florence Pugh. All of his takes are 100% spot on. I think that she is, she's already been nominated for an Academy Award. She's 25 years old, and she was nominated for a movie in which she starred alongside Saoirse Ronan and Emma Watson and all these huge, Meryl Streep was in that movie, just like huge names. And she shined above the rest in that movie. She's incredible. I don't know how else to say it. I think she's a really incredible actor. I think she does a lot of things incredibly well that people struggle with. She has range out the wazoo. It is unreal. And they let her flex her range here. I mean, she was using a Russian accent, which was consistent throughout. They showed her, feeling deep despair. They showed her telling dry jokes. They showed her in combat. Every single bit of Florence Pugh's range was on full display here. And I think that this movie was totally set up for her to steal the show, because she's going to be a piece moving forward for the MCU. And I think that the MCU is lucky to have her. She's a huge get for them because she's going to be a massive star. Some of the best acting talent that we've seen from someone her age in a really long time. So I'm excited to see where the future goes for Florence Pugh, but I'm most excited that this movie will make people unsuspectingly stumble into Midsummer and be horrified and scarred for life. I think that's the part of this that really warms my heart, is that there are thousands of people all across the United States and the world right now who are looking at IMDb and Florence Pugh's page and they're saying, Midsummer, what's that? That looks kind of cool. It's got a nice aesthetic. It's about a midsummer festival. Maybe it's like Shakespeare, something like that. And then they turn it on and they're absolutely ruined for the rest of their life. That really warms my heart. I cannot wait. It's going to be great. It's going to be really great.
Perhaps we should have a reaction video of us watching. I know you already watched it, so
yeah, no, I'm numb to it now.
You would be just like looking at me and laughing while I freaked out and blood probably pours out my eyes. It's probably such a horrifying film. One thing I love about Midsummer is a fun story that your dad and your mom went to go see. They went on a little weekend getaway, and they said when they got back, they're like, "Well, we went and saw Midsummer," and my jaw hit the floor because I knew generally that it was a horror flick. And your dad goes, "Well, I looked up at the poster and it looked like Leonardo DiCaprio, and I just thought, well, he's fantastic, and we should go see that. I'm sure it'll be a lovely film." And somehow they didn't walk out on the film. I think they stayed for the whole thing.
No, they did not. No, they did not.
Did they not? I thought
there's
they did.
No way, Kirk. Let me tell you, there is no way. There is no way. In fact, I'm gonna ask them right after this, because that was my first question. Whenever I saw the movie, I was like, I wonder when they bailed. And yeah, okay. I have my pick of when I think that they bailed, so I kind of want to like bet somebody on it and then see what happens. But let me tell you, there is no way on this earth that my parents stayed through that movie. There is no way.
Well, we will have to follow up with you all.
If they did, members. I will be floored. And also, that's what my dad gets for his shielding of himself from all the information about movies. I can respect it now because I have to stay away from movie information for the podcast so that I can come in with a clear mind. But this dude does it to an extreme level. He's like, like if he walks into a room and hears anybody even mention the title of a movie that he has never seen, he's like, oh no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. So this was a long time coming, and I'm sorry that it had to happen that way, but there is a staggering number of people who have come across Midsummer in that same way. A staggering amount.
Yes, which it's streaming on Prime right now, right?
Prime, there's something sadistic going on with the Prime algorithm where they're force feeding people Midsummer. They're like, you have to watch this. They're like, we think you'll like this. Check it out. There's something messed up. But
well,
that guy, Ari Aster, who directed that film, somebody needs to check on that guy. Like, I don't know what we need to do. I think the film is really objectively well done, but that person scares me. He scares me. I think he's got. I don't want him having any more ideas. Honestly, I'm scared of it. I'm very scared of it because that guy goes to a dark place when he writes films, and holy cow, it's dark.
Yes, yes. Maybe I'll watch it as a little warm up to the Loki finale tonight, as I'm waiting to stay awake in the dark. I think this is a good plan.
Yes, agreed. Okay, that was a large segue, but we will report back next week once I figure out what portion of Midsummer my parents have watched. I cannot wait to find out. I'm so excited. Okay, moving right along. What are we even on right now? I just did my scene stealer, so you're on Showstopper.
Showstopper. This one's tough. But I think it goes right to this picture right here. The relationship between Natasha and Yelena was tight. They knew that it had to be. The nuances of it, the ease of it, going out to like a fast food restaurant, and how they picked on each other at the dinner table, which is perfect opportunity for family building, because you spend so much of your time as a family eating together, right? So those were some of the biggest moments. How they fought with each other was even just spectacular in that opening scene where they meet each other. There's not even really a warm up to it. All of a sudden, we just get back to Yelena after Natasha gets her butt kicked by Taskmaster. And it's an exciting just family push and pull, tug of war of how they interact with each other. If their relationship didn't work, this movie wouldn't work. So that is going to be my win for this movie.
All right, I like it. Simple but profound. That's the name of the game right there, Kirk. All right, my showstopper. Sorry, I'm still thinking about Midsummer. It's really clouding my mind right now. I'm having like flashbacks here. My showstopper is that this movie had something to say. This movie had symbolism and themes, and it was a few layers deeper than what we've gotten in other Marvel films to date. We've gotten a little bit of that for sure, but we've talked about it with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision. The MCU is starting to push the limits a little bit, in terms of, not push the limits, but they're starting to expand their horizons a little bit and get into some cool theme work, some cool symbolism. It's interesting to note the writer of this movie was the showrunner for WandaVision, Jack Schaefer, or one of the writers of this movie. So there was some of that mixed in here. But even from that first scene that I mentioned earlier where she's watching the James Bond movie, there's sort of a handing of the torch there. She's quoting James Bond. This is showing us that she can be James Bond. She is James Bond in this movie. She doesn't need, a male protagonist. Like, this is, and James Bond sort of represents that. He's like the ultimate man's man kind of action star, and they were saying like, this is different, but it's still like James Bond, but here's our female protagonist. I loved that. I loved, the themes weren't exactly like super well veiled, but they were still not like in your face about like, like gender equality and, women's rights and things like that. Like, all of that stuff was on full display in this movie through the themes, and like, I just thought it was strong. I thought it was strong work, and I liked seeing them go that layer deeper than just being a superhero movie. It's like, let's be a superhero movie, but let's also say something. For better or worse, I think it's better when movies try to make a point. We talked about the Tomorrow War last week and how they came close to making a point, but they stopped just short. I think because they were afraid of taking too strong a stance or too hard a line on something, and that's not what film should be. Not that you have to make a point with every movie, but I think it's good to make it if you have something to say. And I thought that this movie did, and they did a really good job with it. So that was something that I was not expecting, and I was excited about. So kudos to the creators of this Black Widow movie. Excellent. All right. Director shoes, Kirk, what you got?
This one hurts. Because we've been anticipating this movie for so long that our expectations were skewed a little bit. Maybe it was just mine. I don't know. I expected this to blow me out of the water. We had some DC like faux pas here. We had action scenes that went on for way too long. Something that we've seen in most DC movies, where it's like, okay, we got it. we get it. Please stop. Please move on with the plot. You can show us an amazing CGI, $5 million action scene, but don't give me a $30 million action scene. I don't want to see it. When we get Alexei out of the prison, it's way too long. It's way too long. We got all this character development sprinkled through, and we should have been able to have that outside of the action scene a little bit. It just wasn't as concise. So we've got extended action scenes that went on for too long, A. B, unfortunately, we also had lack of trust and over-trust happening throughout the course of the movie. So there were times when we were just expected to know things that didn't really quite make sense. And then times where it was bashed over our heads. So an example of the latter is an easy one when we see the mask come off in Draco or Dracovs, which are whatever you want to call them for this movie. When Natasha takes off the mask where she's impersonated, was she impersonating Elena or Melina? Melina. And when she takes off the mask, which of course we saw in Winter Soldier, when she tricked Robert Redford, which was an amazing trick and trope, which is exciting to see them bring that back. We got too much information with the flashback of them showing them exactly what happened and the exact conversations they had. And not one flashback, but I believe it was definitely 2, possibly 3 flashbacks to that same sequence in the movie that had happened only, let's say, roughly 15 to 20 minutes before that. So that's overstating, and I think we should have been trusted a little bit more, or given the breadcrumbs to get us there so we didn't have to rely so heavily on that moment in time in the film. Big moments for that, but that's really the worst that I have to say about this movie, because everything else I do believe the director took great care with. That was just a big glaring, like, what are you doing? Adjacent to such a wonderfully structured film otherwise.
Yeah, I feel you there. I think so. Are you saying with the flashbacks, like when they flash back, they showed us different footage though than what we saw originally?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
They kind of like just kept going back. It's like either show us it when it's happening or don't show us at all and just let us figure it out. Like it's probably, it wasn't even that really complicated of a scene. It's like, obviously there was a period of time when we were in the bedroom with Elena and Alexei where this went down. Like, yeah, to your point, we could have figured that out, right? We're smart people. We could have put the puzzle pieces together.
It almost feels like it almost feels like it was shot in sequence and planned and written in sequence. And the editor's like, wait a second. What if we go back to that scene and we splice it in here? Because it seemed to, it was hitting us over the head too hard with the direction and the structure of the dialogue. So I feel like we still could have had that, and it could have been still a flashback scene, but with like just up the music, have the actual dialogue of what was the most present there in Dracov's laboratory, his secret office, versus going back and having these long flashback scenes.
Yeah. I feel you. Thanks for the clarification there. I feel like that makes total sense, and I 100% agree. I think there were some odd pacing choices made in this movie, like you said, with the long fight scenes and some of that stuff where it's like we could have figured that out, or like, hey, we already have figured this out. Please leave us alone. Like we got it. I totally feel you. And then on the point with you said originally, like they didn't give us enough information. Like they trusted us too much. The Budapest thing. Yes. Because that was set up in the first Avengers movie where Natasha has that quip in the middle of battle where she's like, this reminds me of Budapest, and Jeremy Renner's like, you and I remember Budapest very differently, right? They like showed us what happened, but it wasn't clear that like I watched it with subtitles on today, and it wasn't clear to me until I watched with subtitles that Jeremy Renner was the one talking to her on the walkie, and that that was what they were talking about when they said Budapest, was like her blowing up the building and like killing Dracov and stuff like that. That was what they were talking about. So that was not clear to me until now. And so it's like, oh man, I would have liked a little bit more there, because I feel like that's a good moment. But anyway, moving on to my director shoes, I have 2 things, and both of them are coming more from a Marvel fandom lens, so I apologize for that. But first of all, Taskmaster, okay? and I'm going to be careful about this because there are lots of things that I liked about this. So Taskmaster, the villain, ends up being Dreykov's daughter, who was blown up by Natasha when she was trying to kill Dreykov. She was the collateral damage, but she's since been turned into this monster mimic assassin and is Taskmaster. That bit I kind of liked because I liked that Natasha had to come to terms with her big, mistake from back then, that she had to deal with these things, that she didn't just get to be like, all right, it's dead, it's over. It was a means to an end. Like, she had to face it, literally, like, face it head on. Like, thematically, I really liked that. And from a narrative perspective, I thought it was solid. But Taskmaster is one of the coolest villains in the comics. So cool. And it sucks that he was reduced to being Dreykov's, like, little pet person. I think they even call him that. I think they even call Taskmaster, they call her that at one point, like Dreykov's little animal or pet or something like that. And that's just not cool. That's such a cool villain. And I would love to see Taskmaster return, in the future, but now we don't really get that. It's kind of over and done with. And there was so little screen time and so little fighting, and it just, it hurts. It hurts. I wanted more there. I totally get what they were doing from a narrative perspective, like I said, but I wanted Taskmaster to be at its fullest potential, and it didn't get there. So that sucks. The other thing is, I don't feel like this was the goodbye to Natasha that I thought it would be at all. I feel like the last scene where she kind of just like walks off to get in the Avengers jet is not like heavy enough or symbolic enough to be like, look at Natasha, this is our last moment with her. Just like, it never felt like that. This felt way more like a, hey, look how cool Red Guardian and Yelena Belova are. Like, this is the Yelena Belova handing the torch movie, and she stole the show, which she did. She was the scene stealer. I think she crushed it. She was so good, and people are going to absolutely love her. But it didn't feel like the closure for Natasha story at all. And so I wanted more of that. I thought the narrative was good overall. I just don't think it was necessarily like the right narrative or the narrative that they sort of set up in the marketing and advertising and stuff like that. So I would have liked more closure there. But those are my two things, and neither of them are about the film per se. I thought the narrative of the film was good despite all of that. It just, fitting it into the MCU was a little bit more tricky.
No, I think it plays very well to what you're talking about there. I think that because of what you said on how muddy it was for Budapest, with a sh sound, right? I love
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
How muddy that was. That's what didn't give us enough development on Dreykov's daughter, because we only
Yeah.
see her very briefly, and we see her tragically die, but not enough for it to really click when that mask comes off. When that mask comes off, and it's like slowly coming up, I'm like, what character are we going to see? Is it going to
Yeah.
be a clone of Natasha? Is it going to
Right.
be whatever it might be, right? And it just the dots weren't connected enough at the front half, like you said, for it to be as impactful. Still a cool idea, but because that was muddy in the front end, I'm definitely down with that. Maybe there are different versions of Taskmaster in the MCU because it's a computer chip, right? So maybe that gets science gets used and reutilized so that we continue to see Taskmaster, because it would be a shame to see Dreykov's daughter now still be this villain that runs about throughout the MCU.
I think that's what's upsetting, is like, it feels like, how do they even bring that back? Like, how do they actually like revive that? And I don't want to say goodbye to Taskmaster. As a comic book fan, I really like that character, and I think what they did with it was cool. It's just like, now it's over. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, let's move on to final thoughts and scores. Kirk, why don't you lead the way here?
Excellent. I believe that Miss Natasha Romanoff also, like you said, did not get a proper send-off. That was also beautifully said, because we need to know the next characters, because we know that she was killed off in Endgame. Or was she? And maybe there's a bigger arc that comes out of it. That's the catch-22 here, because we know no one is ever really gone in the MCU. But if it was her final goodbye, her ride off into the sunset, it was just It was all right. It was all right. So that part of it, the expectation was, I was more hopeful for this film to tug on my heartstrings with the background of Natasha Romanoff. The opening scene of this film, all the way through meeting Yelena, all the way through the posing joke, right? Like, why are you always posing like this? Like this is fantastic. Everything up to releasing Alexei was so intentional and so calculated and so exciting. And also we got a credit scene, which we only have in about 3 other Marvel films, an opening credit montage scene, also very exciting. That front half of that movie was incomparable to most other Marvel films. And then it got a little fuzzy as it went on. Got back on its feet, got off its feet, got back on its feet, got off its feet. Overall, though, despite all of those little tropes, I feel like we're going to watch this in retrospect in conjunction with the rest of the timeline and the rest of the MCU films in the future. And we're going to be able to see more clearly. I think these things are built up for us for the future more than the present. So with that, I give this a 7.8 out of 10.
Yeah, that's a good score. That's a good score. I think I agree with a lot of what you had to say. I think that I wouldn't put this in the upper tier of Marvel by any means, but keep in mind that most Marvel movies are pretty good. So you could be in the bottom tier of Marvel and still be an above average film, right? I don't know for sure if this is bottom tier. I think time will tell on that, obviously. But overall, enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun. I thought it was funny, which was great. I thought that was a flair that I wasn't expecting, especially considering the subject matter is pretty heavy. Given the whole like imprisoning girls and like messing with the chemical makeup of their brain to get them to like do the bidding of this creepy guy, like as assassins, heavy stuff. People are dying, being, tortured, brainwashed, what have you. But they managed to balance that out really well with some great humor and some great characters. Florence Pugh wins the day. That's obvious. It'll be obvious to anybody who watches this film what she brings to the table and what she will continue to bring to the table. But I think that it's a solid movie. I don't think it's a great movie. I think it's a good movie, and I enjoyed it. My score was actually really, really close to Kirk's, even though we disagreed on some stuff. We've been I don't know, we need to like do a palate cleanser or something, because our scores have been like decently close recently, and I don't like it. I don't Midsummer. I'll give that one like a 9 and you'll give it like a 2. That's what we need to do. But no, I would say for me, mine was a 7.9. I left it just short of 8 because I always say that 8 is like the great movie threshold, and I feel like this was close and it does a lot of stuff right, and it's certainly an enjoyable watch, and 7.9 is not a bad score by any means. But it is outside the upper tier of Marvel, and it leaves you wanting a little bit, just a little bit. But did I go see it in theaters and buy it on Disney Plus? You better believe I did. Have I already watched it twice? Yes. So take that for what it's worth. Okay. But yeah, that's Black Widow. So let us know your thoughts. I think people have them. I think a lot of people went to go see it if the box office numbers are to be believed. Let us know. I'm so curious to hear what people have to say about this. The solo Marvel films can be so polarizing for people for whatever reason. I don't really know exactly what the reason is, but people form such strong opinions on the solo films, and people have been waiting. Even without the pandemic, people have been asking about a Black Widow solo film for a long time, and we finally got it. So I think there are strong opinions out there. Mm-hmm. And now that I have finally finalized my review, I can go out and read all those. I can go out and read all those opinions and see what people have to say. I'm very interested. So that's Black Widow. Again, you can catch it in theaters or on Disney Plus Premier Access. $30 is the price of admission if you do it on Disney Plus, but then it's in your catalog for forever. Ish, I guess. I don't really know. But let's move on. I was talking about the solo films and how they can be polarizing. And so what we are going to do is a Schoolyard pick of MCU solo films. And what this means is they are films that are not larger group meetup films. So the films that I have excluded, Kirk, and we can talk about this, all of the Avengers movies and Civil War. I have not excluded Guardians, though that's up for discussion, because that is technically, in my opinion, that's a solo film, because that group is just that group. They're never not in that group per se. And even movies like Thor Ragnarok, where Hulk is there, or Spider-Man Homecoming, where Iron Man is there for periods of times, like those are still solo films in my opinion. But I want to get your thoughts before we dive into it.
Yeah, the only one I would question would be Thor Ragnarok, but
the way I see it is that it's just Thor and the Hulk.
And it really is about the story. The narrative is really connected to Thor and his journey versus the greater of the MCU as a whole in that movie. So
exactly. All right. Yeah.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, that one is questionable though. And I don't know if people are going to throw rocks at me about Guardians, but I don't know how that could not be a solo film. They don't
solo,
team
absolutely.
up with anybody. It's a solo. They're a group,
it's their
but
unit.
it's still a solo film. All right. Now that that's out of the way, now that the technicalities have been ironed out, let's dive into this. And I get to kick us off. It's been a while since I've kicked off a Schoolyard pick, but I'm excited about it. My first pick, I have to go with Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This was the Russo brothers' first foray into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and man, what a good one. This was the most grounded that Marvel has ever been, and debatably the best that they've ever been. That's one of the main reasons I was so excited about Black Widow, and why I think it's still a great movie, or a really good movie, I should say, is I think they're at their best when they're grounded. I think they're better with characters that are slightly more grounded than they are with characters that are up in space or whatever, or a little bit more technical. But I just think that practical effects, hand-to-hand combat, characters that are more relatable. I just love everything that it brings to the table. And the best thing about Winter Soldier is how it's basically an espionage film. There's like covert ops. There's Nick Fury having to he's kind of compromised at S.H.I.E.L.D. and there's people who've infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. that are Hydra agents, and it is really cool. And then obviously you get the big reveal with Bucky and the Winter Soldier. You get Nick Fury, like you think he's dead, but then he's not. That great car chase scene that's in that movie. It's just like from start to finish, just as a pulse-pounding epic movie, and I love it.
Well, of course you stole mine, because it's been at the top of our list of Marvel films for all of eternity.
For a long time.
I will select my favorite of all MCU heroes, Thor of Asgard.
Thor.
Look at him. I think they should bring that helmet back.
Which movie?
Thor 1.
Oh, okay.
Thor 1. Because here's my reasoning for it. Because people have a hard time with Thor 1 because it came out at a weird time in Marvel's history. It was at its infancy. You had Iron Man that was very easy to understand and easy to relate to. And then you had someone speaking in Victorian and Shakespearean talk. Chris Hemsworth wasn't really a household name at the time entirely. But the way that the weight of this movie impacted the rest of the characterization, the baseline at least, because he's grown, of the entire MCU history. So Kenneth Branagh, one of my favorite actors, directors, producers, creators, artists, is the culprit of this in conjunction with Chris Hemsworth. He was the director of Thor, and he laid the groundwork. He knew how this should go. And there's no better way. You can't have Dark World, you can't have Ragnarok with how they created and landed this character in Thor 1. So Thor 1 is my pick.
All right, solid pick. All right, my second pick. I'm going with Guardians of the Galaxy, the 2014 Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
This changed the game for the MCU. I think this is a big risk for them. James Gunn was not James Gunn when this movie came out. This was the movie that really put him on the map. This was the movie that changed everything for Marvel, in my opinion. The one that showed people they can do literally whatever they want. They can take B characters from until then pretty underappreciated comic book franchise and bring it to the mainstream and just blow it out of the water. They took Chris Pratt, who was basically just Andy Dwyer at that time, and turned him into an absolute superstar. Zoe Saldana, they cast Dave Bautista in a main role. They had Bradley Cooper as a voice actor, Vin Diesel, just tons of risks. And man, did they pay off. It was cool. It was quirky. It had style and character and just laughs galore. And it was a beautiful, beautiful movie and one of my favorites to this day. So Guardians Volume 1, that's my second pick.
Wonderful. One of the things I love about so much about the Office, the Parks and Rec, and how Andy Dwyer became Peter Quill is that, goodness, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank, and this is just embarrassing. One of the showrunners for Parks and Rec, he played Mose on The Office. One of the creators. Goodness, is it Jim O'Hare? No, that's Michael Schur. Michael Schur.
Yeah, Michael Schur.
Michael Schur. They wanted to let all of their actors be able to do whatever they wanted, to have like an extended work life. That way they wouldn't get annoyed and wouldn't like cancel their contracts as soon as possible, so that Parks and Rec could live on. So when Chris Pratt's agent called Michael Schur and said, "Hey, Chris Pratt's got a really good shot. There's this movie with a talking raccoon. I think he can take it. I think he'll be really good at it." And Michael Schur's like, "Yeah, whatever. Go do the talking raccoon movie." And little did he know that allowance to let him dive out into that, film that while also doing Parks and Rec, why they relocated one half of whole season in order for them to be able to film both, is why we have Chris Pratt in the element that we have Chris Pratt today, so that he could not breach contract but do both jobs. Absolutely incredible. I love that story. I love it so much. Thank you, Michael Schur. We owe you so much.
For sure.
My next pick is going to be Black Panther.
Good one.
Just an unreal, original take on the Black Panther concept. Of course, the Black Panther in its origin in the comics was living in a very different time, with themes that still unfortunately ring true to racism. But it doesn't matter. It was easily transplanted into the time and era of when it came out in the MCU. And there's not going to be, unfortunately and fortunately, not going to be another Black Panther film like this ever again, because of the passing of Chadwick Boseman and because of just absolute magic and perfect timing that made this production possible. So Black Panther.
Great pick. Great pick. The only MCU film to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. That's big time. All right, for my third pick, I'm going with Spider-Man Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home. I think people somewhat forget about this one because it's a little bit more recent, so people feel like they can't put it high on their list. But take a look at that film, and you got a lot of good things going on. You've got really good development of the Spider-Man character. You've got a really great Mysterio storyline, complete with an exemplary performance by Jake Gyllenhaal. More character development, great special effects, great story, great acting, great everything, and leaves you on this huge cliffhanger. I think it's an excellent film and really a true solo film. There's no Iron Man involved there. There's Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, but he's the bad guy. And this is just a pure, unadulterated Spider-Man film, and a really dang good one. Really good.
Man. What comes next? This is tough. Now. This is getting very, very tough. I'm going to have to say Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2?
I do pick Iron Man 2.
Shocking. Let's hear it.
I'm in the camp that this is a pretty big polarization as well. Iron Man 2, you either hate it or you love it, and I love it. I think people have a lot of stones to throw at it, but I'm all in on Iron Man 2, and it takes a lot when these sequels come out. I mean, look at it. We have Iron Man to Iron Man 2. I think Iron Man 2 is better. We have Ant-Man to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Which one is better? We have Captain America First Avenger, Captain America Winter Soldier. I think Iron Man 2, Iron Man 1 was iconic, but Iron Man 2, the level of which the villain was, sorry, Jeff Daniels, better developed, had just better writing throughout. It gets my win. What camp are you in on Iron Man 2, Cam?
I'm in the other camp.
You are.
I'm in the other camp. It's a bottom tier MCU film for me. It's a bottom tier. I put it. I hate to say it. I put it down pretty low, like in the same realm as the Incredible Hulk and Thor: Dark World.
Wow,
it's like there-ish.
Holy moly! Me. And Iron Man.
That's
3.
okay. This is good. This is interesting. But I'm for it. I like unconventional picks. It makes it easier for me to pick my movies as well. So I'll take it. Yeah, good one. So that was your third pick?
Yes.
This is my fourth pick. All right. Well, I'm going to take Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok. I think that's a great film. This is the film that changed the trajectory of Thor. This was the film where his storyline really started to get enriched, and obviously they got to go back and enhance Thor: Dark World's storyline with Endgame. And like I've said on this podcast 1,000 times, I think Thor's arc by the end of Endgame is the best of any character. I think it's so rich and so deep, and Ragnarok, goes a long way in enriching that, and it turned Chris Hemsworth into a really funny character, thanks to Taika Waititi, which was desperately needed because he has great comedic instincts, and it just needed to be unlocked. And I thought that it took those movies to a whole new level. We got introduced to Korg, we got introduced to Valkyrie, all these great new characters, and the aesthetic, the feel, all of it was just desperately needed in that franchise after Dark World, and it was brilliant. I love it.
Well, you have my heart because I love Thor.
Yes.
My next pick. This is tough. Two more. I will select Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Nice.
It was an origin story without being a full origin story, which was a refreshing and exciting take on Spider-Man, because we got a little bit of that in Captain America: Civil War. And of course, we had 2 iterations of Spider-Man within the past 15 years right before that, especially when this came out within the past 3 years. We had Andrew Garfield's origin story as the Amazing Spider-Man. So Spider-Man: Homecoming, very exciting, very fun. Michael Keaton just annihilated the screen, annihilated it. And I'm so excited that he is still alive in the MCU and will be coming back in what looks like, in possibly we could see him show up in Sony's Venom 2. And I imagine that we'll see him in the rest of the Marvel Disney properties of Venom as well. So whatever that looks like, I'm excited to see more Spider-Man: Homecoming. You have my heart as well. Great pick.
I'm on to my final pick now. And I'm going to go with Iron Man 1. I'm going to go with the first Iron Man, the film that started it all. So funny to me thinking back that movie came out the exact same summer and within a few weeks of The Dark Knight, which is perhaps the greatest superhero movie of all time. And it was also just a few weeks removed from The Incredible Hulk, another MCU movie. That release schedule was weird. But came into Iron Man with zero expectations. I remember seeing it. I remember who I was with. I remember everything about it because I was blown away. I was blown away by it. Robert Downey Jr. under Jon Favreau's direction gives a stellar, unbelievable performance and creates a character that becomes one of the most beloved characters in all of film for the next 15 years. It is remarkable, and you look at where the Tony Stark arc ends, and it just enhances Iron Man 1 so much more. It's such a great film, and one of the slickest, coolest films ever. Just the building of the suit, the colors, when he's painting it and building it and testing it out, and all the way down to that final fight scene with Obadiah. It's a great movie, and it holds up. It holds up really well. It's obviously, like, from a scale perspective, is dwarfed by what happens in the MCU nowadays. Like, it's much more grounded than any of our current MCU movies, but man, is it still so great.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm going to go my final pick. This is tough. I'm teetering between 3. Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. What am I going to do? I will be judged with great fire of
you will be lambasted
between any one of these that I pick. Like, you picked what? I just can I not pick? Is that even
I appreciate
a choice?
you speaking your truth, though, because like, you knew that some of those were hot takes, and I love it. You just leaned right into it. That's great. That's what it's all about.
The ones that I already chose?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Like, you were like, yeah, I know Thor's kind of a hot take. Yeah, I know Iron Man 2 is definitely a hot take, but like, bring it on. That's what this is all about, man. Just live your truth.
I just also want someone to take a soundbite from us and be like, can you believe these guys?
What a bunch of idiots.
What? And then Marvel hears from it, and then they start sponsoring our podcast. It's that simple, guys. We just need one person. Like Lady Gaga says, one person out of a room of 100 is all you need to make your life and make your dreams come true.
That may be true if you're Lady Gaga, who has one of the most incredible voices in the world.
Well, I have a ham suit. Hanging up. Should I place it on and dance around for you?
Meat suit. I think, yeah, that'd be good.
Yes.
That might help our chances for sure.
I'm going to go with Ant-Man.
Ooh, for a second there, I thought you were frozen. You were so still. I was amazed by that. But Ant-Man.
Yes, I'm going to go with Ant-Man because this movie was a shocker. Absolute shocker. I believe that Zach Galifianakis recently had Paul Rudd on Between Two Ferns, his comedy, and he said, what movies do you prefer, the Marvel movies or the ones that people have never heard of? Because Paul Rudd has been around, you know his name, but you can't quite place a finger on it. There's all of these indie movies and Clueless, and then there's the Marvel movies, but he has such a rich history if you look back into his IMDb. But what Ant-Man brought us was that the humor that the MCU and Marvel sprinkles in, they just went full force. They had the opportunity with this character because why not? It's an absurd character. How are you going to make a full-blown, mostly dramatic film about a man who shrinks to the size of an ant without having any kind of comedy sprinkled in there? So brilliant take. Paul Rudd is the only man who could do this movie and this role. And I'm excited to see the Quantumanium coming up soon.
Yeah, that'll be fun. It's so funny that you pick Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man is always a fun one to think back on, like how far we've come. Because I can remember seeing Iron Man 2 with one of my high school friends, walking out of the theater and us joking about, like, what are they going to do next? Make an Ant-Man movie? Like, we literally had that conversation because it had just been announced that they were working on an Avengers movie. And so we had bad takes galore because we were like roasting the Mark Ruffalo casting, roasting the Chris Evans casting, like roasting it all over the place. And then we were like making jokes about like, oh, they'll never be able to do an Ant-Man movie. And then they did. And it was great. So I think it's hilarious to think of how big this has become in such a relatively short amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Love it.
Lots on the table.
I know. There's so many. And if we did honorable mentions, it would just be the remaining films. So
yes,
we're not going to do that.
And let us begin.
There's like 8 of them. So we're not going to do that. We'll let you guys use process of elimination to figure that out. But like we said, or like I said, I don't want to put words in your mouth. All the Marvel movies are pretty good, above average. So even the ones that get left on the board are above average movies. We'll just say that. But that's all we've got for you. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and listening to our thoughts on Black Widow. Remember, if you have thoughts on Black Widow, and I know you do, don't act like you don't, you got to share them with us. We're dying to talk about this. This is what Kirk and I do. We sit around and we talk about movies to each other, and we have the Discord where we can talk about movies with other people. We want to talk about movies with you all the time. We're junkies. We can't stop. It's all we do. So please indulge us. Please talk to us about movies. We would love to talk to you about it. Loki. Let me hold on. I got some props here, Kirk. Get on my level. I got Loki Funko Pops here. All right.
I can't touch that.
The Loki finale is just in a few hours from the date of recording right now, which is Tuesday, July 13th. The Loki finale is coming at us. If you haven't been listening, but you've been watching Loki, we have done a whole series of recaps and analysis on every episode of Loki. You can go back and listen to those and hear what Easter eggs we found, what character moments we dug deep into, what things we expect in the finale. If you listen to our episode from this week, you can hear everything we expect to happen in the finale and then see if we were right, which we probably won't be, but we've been doing pretty good on this show and getting lots of things right. So it's the best Marvel show. I feel safe in saying that so far. It's the best Marvel show so far, and it's setting up for a barn burner of a finale. So get ready for that. We'll have all your Loki coverage for you, spoiler-free and spoiler-full, whatever your preference, coming your way throughout the rest of the week. And what are we reviewing next week, Kirk? Is it going to be Space Jam? Probably, right?
Possibly
Space Jam. Possibly.
There's a lot of stuff dropping.
There is. There is a lot of stuff coming out.
I think I just added something to the calendar today.
This month, there's a lot of big things. I mean, there's the Nicolas Cage movie Pig. There's M. Night Shyamalan's Old. There's the Green Knight.
Here are two sad reminders that Spider-Man 3 was originally supposed to premiere this Friday. That Uncharted was supposed to premiere. Just terrible.
Darn you, COVID.
Walk down memory lane of a timeline that is no longer available.
Right. No longer the sacred timeline.
Yeah, we'll it's most likely going to be Space Jam, but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll keep you guys posted on social so you can get your homework done ahead of time. But that's all we got. As always, we have to give a special thanks to our executive producer, Ryan Spriggs. We're also going to give a special thanks to our original music creators, which is the band Rhetoric. Catch them everywhere you can get music, and we will see you guys next time.
Talk to you then.